Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, September 5th, 2013. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Steve Wilkes and I talked to a good friend who's had a rough summer and wants to share a cautionary tale. If you're new to home brewing and would like to get into the hobby, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. You can find me on Twitter. My username is Basic Brewing, all one word. Also, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/basicbrewing.james, and our show page on Facebook is at facebook.com/basicbrewing. We're on the Google Plus, too. And thanks again to everybody clicking on our Amazon.com associate link on our basicbrewing.com site. You know how that works. Whenever you think of Amazon.com, think of us first and click on our link on basicbrewing.com to Amazon. It'll take you there. You can shop just like normal, and we'll get a cut. It won't cost you any extra, and you'll be helping us to bring you the show, and we greatly, greatly appreciate your support. We also have associate links that work the same way for Brew Your Own magazine and the American Homebrewers Association on our site, too. You can find our Basic Brewing iPhone app on iTunes and our Android app on Amazon.com. We're on the BlackBerry podcast directory, we're on the Stitcher app, and we're on the Windows Phone directory, too. Check out our Brewer's Logbook at basicbrewingshop.com. A bunch of you have been buying them lately. It's starting to get cooler up here in the Northern Hemisphere. Brewing season is upon us. In the front of the book is a blank calendar that you can use to track your fermentations and plan your brews, and there is room in the back to log the details of up to 50 batches of beer. If you want to put a tip in our tip jar, some coinage in our guitar case, you can go to basicbrewing.com/support. Thanks to everybody who's done so already. Protect your precious beer with one of our growler bags. Check those out at basicbrewingshop.com. This has been a rough summer. In early July, I learned that a very good friend had been admitted to the intensive care unit as a result of decades of involvement with alcohol. He came very close to dying, and when I was going through that time, I felt very odd producing a podcast promoting the use of alcohol at the same time my friend was battling for his life because of it. I think that we've done a pretty good job here on this podcast of promoting responsibility and moderation, but I thought that I couldn't go through what we went through over the past couple of months without saying something about it here. And I talked to Steve Wilkes, and he agreed. So I cautiously approached my friend, Alan, but when I did, he had no reservations at all in sharing his story. So I know that a lot of you will want to skip this episode, and some of you may have already, but I hope you won't. I think that we approach it in a good, positive way, and we ask more questions probably than we answer. But I think it's a discussion starter, and after you listen to the episode, I'd like to hear what you think. Here we are in Alan's apartment. We're sipping coffee. First of all, welcome, Alan.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for you guys stopping by.
Steve Wilkes, welcome.
Thanks, James.
We're drinking coffee, no beer today. We're going to talk about a serious side of things, but I hope that we can keep it fairly lighthearted and not somber. First of all, Alan, how's your summer been?
Different would be a good way to start that off. Yours?
Well, it's been active. You had a pretty rough July.
Yeah, and you've been filling in the holes all this month, so sounds like I did have a pretty rough July.
Now let's back up before we get to talking about your story in detail. We have spent the past 8 years, Steve, you and I, and Andy, and everybody who's been on the show, talking about the wonderful part of beer and alcohol, and basically advocating the use of alcohol. Mm-hmm. And we've all but ignored the fact that there's another side of the coin. There's a flip side. recent events that we'll talk about with Alan here in just a minute have kind of brought that into the forefront in our lives. And we're journalists, Steve. You and I went to school to be journalists. We're trained journalists. Yep. You are still working as a journalist. I contend that this is a journalistic effort here. And after going through what we've been through for the past couple of months, I could not let this opportunity pass by without acknowledging it and without talking about it. And you and I talked about this. In fact, you brought it up to me, Steve, saying, we need to talk about this on the show.
Yeah, I just felt like it was time to take a little bit of a gut check, maybe as individually and then as a community. And you're right, as journalists, this is part of the story, and you have to tell the whole story in order to, just to be valid in what you have to say. So there you go.
And we, through our history, I think that we have been fairly responsible in advocating the safe use of alcohol and being able to enjoy it as a part of life. Mm-hmm. We don't celebrate drunkenness. We don't tell funny drunk driving stories. No. We don't think it's funny when we see people passed out. We have been, I think, sort of on the positive side of things throughout our history. So we've kind of addressed it in that way, but never head on like this.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, to just reiterate, to me, celebrating the hobby and the craft of brewing and of winemaking or mead making and all the things that revolve around that, which is friendship and fellowship and good food and good times. Those are all wonderful things. But like almost everything in life, there needs to be moderation and there needs to be a certain sobriety to it. Even if you're enjoying things that, let's face it, alcohol's a drug, and it can enhance your life, or it can hurt and harm your life, and the life around you as well, your friends, your loved ones, and all of that. So, we just thought that we needed to talk a little bit about that, and just as a community, take a look at who we are.
Yeah, and before anybody panics, we are not. We're not going to try to sound like neo-prohibitionists here. We enjoy beer, we enjoy brewing, and we're going to continue. You and I are going to continue to do that.
Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah. This isn't about switching horses in the middle of the race.
Yeah, so don't panic.
Yeah,
but there is a story that we need to tell, and that brings us back to Alan. We're sitting here in your apartment, and take us back into early July here in the apartment. What was going on?
Well, starting back a little further back, late June, I was coming down with what I thought was flu at the time. It turns out it wasn't. And right after I spent, the holidays like everybody else, 4th of July, I had a few days off. The week following the 4th of July, went to work, everything's going normal, went to lunch, everything's great. And basically after I got back from lunch, I wasn't feeling well again and was thinking, perhaps these flu symptoms were coming back. I wasn't sure, but left at 5, came home, and was just feeling tired, more tired, and just not feeling that well. And to make a long story short, basically around 3 in the morning, I needed to call an ambulance to take me in to a hospital that's about a mile from my house. And I just knew, something was wrong. And I'm glad that I did.
I am too, because the nurse in the ICU where you wound it up, where you wound up, said that if you hadn't made that phone call, you would be dead. So you were in the process of dying when you made that phone call.
Right. You don't have a lot of energy when you're dying, I've noticed. So, I needed somebody to physically move me to a better place to get some help.
So let's back up even further and talk about why you wound up there, how you wound up there. You wound up there because you, ironically, had made a positive choice in your life. And you had decided, a week or so earlier, to stop drinking.
Right.
And apparently, someone with your history and depth with alcohol can't do that. Can't just go cold turkey without supervision and stop drinking without potentially disastrous results. And I had no idea that would happen. But apparently, everybody we talked to in the hospital said, it happens. It happens a lot. So, give us an idea of where you were. How much were you drinking?
My alcohol preference is liquor. I don't drink a lot of beer. I have nothing against beer. But basically, I was drinking close to, more or less, about a pint of vodka a night. Never during the day. It was more or less a routine. Come home from work, relax, have a martini, what have you, and just do my evening routine. And I'd been doing that for basically several decades. So,
and that tends to take a toll on a body. And we won't go into the details of your personal life, but you'd had some ups and downs recently, a lot more downs than ups, unfortunately, and it had been a trying time, and I guess that was your way to cope with things.
Right, and kind of getting back to, I think part of your original question, about 7 months ago, I also smoked. I managed to quit smoking. I was prescribed Chantrix and didn't really like it that much, but I managed to go cold turkey with my cigarettes, and it's been 6 months, and I didn't really have that much of a withdrawals or a big problem really quitting smoking, so I was very pleased with that. And just kind of the expense and how it is, if you drink during the week, you go to work, you may be functional, but you may be dealing with hangovers, you may be dealing with a myriad of other things that convinced me that I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't going anywhere. And so basically I did a quit date of, it's around the holidays, so Independence Day, the July 4th. Well, that went by. That was a good day to party. And basically a day or two after that, I managed to just go cold turkey and did pretty good. And it's like, okay, I'm keeping myself busy, doing things around the house. Went to work the following Monday when everybody goes back to work, and that's when I started feeling very strange. So,
yeah, and I mean, just the fact that you quit, and you didn't tell me when you did, and I've been after you for a while. Yeah. I've been trying to talk you into it for a while, but you can't lead a horse to water. And Steve, you and I had discussed on many occasions that Alan is headed for a bad, he's going to hit bottom at some point.
Yeah, and I want to first say how much I admire the strength that it took for you to make the decision and then to stick with the decision, and that it's unfortunate, obviously, that because you weren't able to do it with a doctor and with supervision, that it caused you such distress and such pain. but the strength of character it takes to stand up to this disease is incredible. So I really applaud you for that.
Well, thank you.
I really, sincerely. And having said that, though, James is right that, we talked quite a bit. I've known other guys that have had problems with alcohol or drugs or both. Some of them have been close to me, and some of them have been casual acquaintances. So I've seen it, and I was very, really worried about you. So I don't really know where I'm going with that, except it just takes so much strength. It takes so much character to recognize where you're at and to take an honest look at yourself and say, that's not good enough for me anymore.
Yeah.
And thank goodness you made that decision, because I don't know where you would have been right now if you didn't. I mean, maybe because apparently, the doctors that we've talked to say that when your body has taken in that much alcohol for such a long period of time, it becomes dependent on it, and that's the part of how your body functions. And when you take it away, your body starts to shut down.
Yes.
And that's what your body did. And
that was only for I don't think it was 3 full days, but basically a day and a half to 2 days, 48 hours later, I was in the intensive care unit, just from not drinking. 1 or 2 shots probably would have pulled me out, at least temporarily.
That's not to say that if you are having a problem drinking, that you should continue drinking.
Right. That was kind of the rub with me, where, okay, what you need to do is take it down in increments. Well, if I'm drinking a pint, you might go buy a pint at the liquor store. Well, I'm going to take it down in increments and just buy a half pint. Well, as soon as I finish the half pint, am I going to jump in my car and go back to the liquor store because I haven't had I don't have my drink on yet. So it's a catch-22, and it's a tricky disease.
Your official diagnosis was pancreatitis.
Right.
And when you went into the ICU, you had, according to the nurse that we talked to, your heart rate was 177. Your blood pressure was 64 over something.
Which is low.
Which is incredibly low. 64 is low for the lower number. And, and so, and the first day that I went up to the hospital to see you.
So heart rate high, blood pressure extremely low.
Right, and extremely dehydrated. Right. And you couldn't talk to me without the alarms kept going off on the monitoring units, because every time you would talk, your heart rate would go up to 180. So they basically told me to go away and come back. And that started a week and a half of your recovery, and the recovery in more than one way. Because I talked to the nurse a couple of days into it, and I said, "How's his pancreas?" And she said, "Oh, well, that's stabilized." And I said, "Well, what's up with all the IVs? Because you had 6 or 8 IV. I've never seen so many hoses and tubes hooked into a person." And she said, "Oh, all this is just to handle the withdrawal."
Right. I remember that.
And I said, "Oh my gosh." And she said, "Even now, if we were to turn all this stuff off, he would die."
Gee.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's just the withdrawal from the alcohol. Now, I figured it out. A pint of 40% or 80 proof vodka is equal to the same amount of alcohol in 13 Miller Lights at 4.2% alcohol, ABV.
That's a pint?
Yeah. And some days you would do more?
Yes.
So,
Some days less.
Just think about that. That's a lot. But, in some way, we may be talking apples and oranges, because beer is not vodka. But you get the point. It's a lot. But at the same time, there are craft beers out there that, I bought a 6-pack of New Belgium Rampant last night at 8.5% alcohol. So it seems like to me the ABV levels are climbing up and up. And I enjoy a double IPA or a triple as much as the next guy, maybe even a little more. So I'm not advocating getting rid of those. I'm just saying that this is a cautionary tale, and part of this is part of the purpose of this conversation is to step back and take a look at where we are.
Well, I made a joke the other day. I went in and got a growler from a local brewery, and I got a growler of triple, and I'm not sure exactly what the ABV is on it, but it's about 8%, I imagine. And my joke to the guy that was filling it up for me, I said, it's pretty sad when your session beer becomes a triple. But it was the truth. I mean, I bought a growler of it, and I'm the only one that's going to drink it at the house. Mm-hmm. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but there was something about, gee, this 8% beer really is my session beer.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's the truth, and as Alan alluded to before, the more you drink, the more it takes to get you where you need to go.
Yeah.
So you kind of went through a treatment program by staying in the hospital and then a rehabilitation center afterwards, and being given drugs and such as that to deal with the symptoms of withdrawal. So you kind of were drug into, so to speak, that recovery process and that withdrawal treatment process, whereas a lot of people have to make that decision themselves and go into a treatment center to get that done. So, now you had some physical problems because when you stay in bed for a couple of weeks and you are pumped full of the fluids that you wound up, you couldn't walk at the end of those 2 weeks in the hospital, and you're still having problems getting around a little bit. You're a whole lot better. And they pumped you so full of different kinds of drugs in there that you kind of lost touch with reality a bit. And I was...
To put it lightly.
I got a phone call one night. It's kind of funny now.
Yeah, it's funny in hindsight.
We laugh about it today.
When it's happening, it's rather terrifying.
I got a phone call from a night nurse saying, your friend has climbed out of the window of the facility, and I talked to you, and you were under the impression that you were in a 17th century dungeon of some sort.
That's correct. I was in a 17th century dungeon underneath the rehab center, and I thought it was a wonderful space, very well done. And I had to go to the bathroom, and I couldn't figure out how to get out. So, lo and behold, there's a window, so I climbed out the window, and there were a few nurses outside waiting for me.
So thank goodness that nurses smoke.
Right.
That's all I...
Pretty much.
And then a few days later, I said, "Alan, are you having problems with any more delusions?" And you said, "No, but I'm pretty sure there's something going on in that room 2 doors down the."
Some sort of Los Alamos thing happening going on.
Aliens were down the hall. So anyway, now it's funny. Then I was worried that you would never come back. Seriously, it took you a very long time. And since your liver is compromised, it took your liver a long time to process those medications. And of course, now I told you the other day, you're sharper now. I've known you for 20 years, and you're sharper now, I think, than you've ever been. You seem quicker. You seem smarter. You
seem awake.
Seem alert, awake. You seem on top of things. What now that you've been through the tunnel and you're out on the other side? Do you feel different?
Yeah, kind of going back to what you were saying about, I guess, being drug or thrown in, whichever, to the rehab process. I was curious as to, how many folks that happens to, which, I did want to quit, which seemed like it kind of put me at an edge, or at least it helped me out in that I mentally wanted to do that. I've had friends that have gone into rehab because people found them on the floor, immobile and at death's door, and they just took them to rehab, kicking and screaming, I guess, when they woke up. But when, I went to the hospital, basically I was medically going through, withdrawals and getting a lot of help, obviously, along the way, which seems like a nice way to go. I've been looking into some, ongoing, options. Alcoholics Anonymous, different types of therapy or rehab ongoing. What I have noticed in the area where we live is there's a lot of therapy that deals with, the guy or the gal who wants to quit, and they're taking them through that process of basically how to stay sober. At this point, I've been sober for 2 months, which I know isn't, I'm sure any AA would say that's great, but, there's folks that are dealing with this heavily every day, for 10, 20 years, that it's a day-by-day process, not to make big or little of either one, but just to appreciate that. But it just, I'm kind of wondering, but it just seems like the medical way of going through it kind of, at this point, it was favorable, I guess, is one way to put it.
Well, and you're at a point where moderation is not an option. I mean, the doctors have said that,
no more alcohol.
Yeah, period. But we talked to nurses up there who's, and I said, after that nurse told me that all of this is just to handle the withdrawal, I said, holy smokes. I said, how often does this happen? And she said, all the time. And she said, you know what? Here in a few months, a year, you'll forget all of this. You'll forget all this pain. You'll forget all this trouble. And a lot of people are back. So you're just starting.
Right.
You're just starting to deal with the situation. I mean, you are physically and medically free of the addiction, I guess. But you've got to deal with the mental part and the emotional part, and it seems like you're doing really well. It's nice to call you at any hour of the day and be able to talk to you. Whereas before, there was a certain time in the evening after which I could not call. Number one, you wouldn't answer the phone, but if you did, you would probably not remember the conversation. But anyway, it's so good to have you here.
Thank you.
In more ways than one, and you've got the challenge now of figuring out how you maintain that.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what else. I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, we could talk about our culture. I mean, we are, as I said in the beginning, Steve, you and I are in the position where we are advocating alcohol use. Mm-hmm. And on a personal note, I had a brother who was killed by a drunk driver when I was 7 years old. So I've known since the beginning, and I've wanted to address this since the beginning, that what we're dealing with is something that is potentially harmful and deadly. Mm-hmm. And that's why, I don't celebrate drunk people on the show. I don't celebrate, we don't celebrate the excess.
Right. We
may get tipsy every now and then and laugh and have a good time, but, it's something that I've known for most of my life, that it's something that can change you in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Living testimony to the long-term effects of alcohol use. Unfortunately, your brother is testimony to the short-term use of abusing alcohol. And I think, for me, looking at how I use alcohol, how I drink beer, how much I drink, when I drink it, I'm like you. I don't drink beer because I want to get drunk. In fact, I don't really like to get drunk. I don't like the feeling of it. Which isn't to say that I don't get a buzz, but the idea of being a consumer with the purpose of finding the quickest route to deliver alcohol to my brain is not the point of home brewing or making wine or making mead. It's really about celebrating life together in a community, and unfortunately, alcohol has the ability to take away your judgment, and then ultimately to take away how your body functions without it. And so I don't know. It's just something that I've had some experiences, like I say, with this in the past with some folks I've known, and it just felt like, as a community, we needed to look at ourselves as a cultural phenomenon. The rise of craft beer in the United States, and you're right, I think the ABV of beers is creeping up. I can't prove that other than just I'm keyed into the industry, and it just looks like, we're getting more and more used to drinking for 6% beers, and now 7% beers, now 8% beers, and there's this kind of race to see who can get the most hops, the most alcohol, the bigger, the better, and I love those beers, but just like I wouldn't eat a whole peach pie every day, as much as I love peach pie, there's got to be some moderation in there, and that's it. I'll get off my horse now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the purpose of this episode is not to be preachy.
No.
The purpose of this episode is not to be self-righteous, because I'll be the first to admit that I've not always had that healthy of a relationship with alcohol. I mean, in college, as a lot of people discover, alcohol was to be consumed as quickly and as much as possible.
Yeah.
And, we get into situations where there's this kind of, I don't know if you call it codependence, but this validation between heavy drinkers in that situation where it's okay if you pass out on the floor tonight because, I did it last weekend, or,
right.
It becomes the norm. It's okay because everybody's doing it. And, there's, especially if you're young like that, there's no self-examination of, wait a minute, this ain't right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to come out with any kind of conclusions here. I just want to kind of have this food for thought, and especially, when I almost lost one of my best friends to alcohol, I think we have a moral obligation to at least talk about it, at least broach the subject.
Yeah, I think that you're right. This particular podcast is not about reaching a conclusion or making a definitive statement. It's only about taking a look at yourself and your community and how you use this wonderful thing, this wonderful beverage that we all love to make and enjoy. And so just taking a moment to consider that there is another side to the coin, however that plays out in your life, I think is worth, a half hour of our time.
Final thoughts?
I think Steve put it very well, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Cop out.
Yeah.
Man, well, I hope that there's something in there. I hope that if I don't want to make a call to the altar, so to speak, but I hope that if there are listeners out there who are having a problem, maybe this will at least put the brakes on for just a little bit, just to kind of say, look around, and you're on a road, and where's that road taking you?
Yeah.
So.
One thing that if you feel like you have a problem with alcohol, you probably do. And, if something inside of you says, gee, I think I might have a problem, you do. And so I'll just recommend to everyone, if you want to do a quick read that's really concise and very well put, go to the Mayo Clinic and just look up alcoholism. And, and if you have some questions about it, it's very enlightening and very interesting to read.
There you go. Thanks, guys. Next week, back to regular programming.
That's right. I'll be doing that double Imperial Russian Super Stout.
Yeah, that we will freeze, concentrate,
and top with whipped cream,
and use it in some ice cream.
Yeah,
but Hypocrite Central here.
That's right.
No. Anyway, I appreciate it, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks again to Alan and to Steve. Alan is doing very, very well, and he's a great inspiration to me, and I hope that his sharing his story will do some good out there. I'd like to hear from you. As I said in the beginning, I'd like to hear from you. What do you think of this week's show? Did we go too far? Not far enough? You can get in touch the usual ways. If you have brewing questions or responses to this week's show suggestions for future shows, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Our Basic Brewing growler bags are available in our shop. Protect your precious homebrew and craft beer as you take it from place to place. Check out our support link where you can throw a couple of bucks into the tip jar by subscribing financially to our podcasts. We'd like to expand our coverage, do more things, and you can help do that. Be sure to check out our DVDs, Extract Brewing and Partial Mashing, Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, and Introduction to Wine Kits. You can find them all on our site. We've got combo deals to save you a few bucks if you want to buy more than one DVD at a time. You can check out our Basic Brewing shirts in the store, too. Our logbooks are in the store. Keep track of up to 50 batches of beer. You can see a listing of the fine folks across the country who sell our DVDs on basicbrewing.com. And if there isn't a vendor in your area, you can order them online at our online shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com link. We appreciate the support there. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are Sleep Innovations 12-inch Sure Temp Memory Foam Mattress, 20-year warranty, King. And boy, I bet that comes in a big box. And Cyma S107C camera 3-channel remote control helicopter with gyro and video recording. Colors may vary. Very cool. Thanks again, everybody. Remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries there. Just click on the Amazon.com logo on our site the next time you feel like Amazon shopping, and we greatly appreciate your support. Don't forget you can also join the American Homebrewers Association and subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine through the associate links on basicbrewing.com. That's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer, production help for Basic Brewing Radio, and our website is provided by Kelly Dotson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.